done this podcast right here in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. And man, this one has been, just a devastating impact across the globe and here in the United States. And a lot of people are asking the question as we sit here on the eve of Memorial Day weekend, where do we go from here? How do we get back to normal? What does normal even look like? Economies have been devastated. Business has been devastated. The rest of our industry will never be the same. How they recover. I'm a large man. They say they might not be able to have buffets anymore after this. I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
Hey man, I feel you because I'm also, I have my own gravitational pull, and I do enjoy a buffet every now and then, and that's gonna be upsetting. I don't know if you saw that CNN. They posted a study from, I believe it was from Japan, where they did almost like a mock cruising ship environment, but essentially it was a buffet, right? And they put this special gel on this guy's hand that can only be seen under ultraviolet light, and they told the people in there to just go have lunch. At the end of it, they turned on the black lights, right? And everybody's hands and a lot of people's faces lit up, show you just how fast, this thing can spread. But then I started to think, I was like, any virus or bacteria is going to spread the same exact way.
But obviously, the COVID-19 virus is extra contagious.
It's more contagious than, of course, like
the common cold or the flu.
But it goes to show you what will life look like post COVID-19, if there is such a thing. Is COVID-19 going to be the new flu, right? Is that just going to be a seasonal thing that we now have to deal with? And I'm already seeing, different reactions, right? You got some people who are still scared shitless to leave their house. Mm-hmm. Understandably so, especially if you have underlying health conditions. Then you also see the people who are out here that just don't give a fuck, right? They're out here, they're going about, living life as if nothing happened, right? They're dying for bars to open. They're going to stores. They're all over the place, just trying to get out the house and get out of that cabin fever, right? And you're sitting there wondering, what is life going to look like post this whole, pandemic? Because and here's a scary answer to that question. No one really knows.
Yeah. I've been out a few times, especially going to grocery stores. I make it a point to wear my mask. I don't have an N95 or anything like that. Basically, just one of those nice elastic face scarves that cover me from the nose down. And by the way, there's nothing worse than seeing these people wearing the mask and they have their whole nose out, or their nose is covered, their bottom lip and mouth is out. My goodness, the whole point being is to cover your nose and mouth. But being out, and I'm seeing people, especially people of age and what have you, should be out to limited, in a limited capacity as can be. But man, I've seen people out there, they just don't care. The masks are gone. They've basically gotten sick and tired of this, and they have determined and decided that this is over with, and they're just going to go back to normal.
Oh yeah, I've been to downtown Dallas. I went to a park in downtown Dallas, mind you. I was just riding around in the car, me and the wife and the dog, just looking, just window looking, right? Just looking out the window, looking at, just going to look at parks and whatever. And then I come across these parks, and it was packed, full of people. I'm talking about playing volleyball and frisbee and all types of stuff. And I'm like, dang. They're like, some people, they just say, hey, F it. If I get it, I get it. I'm young. It's probably not going to kill me. And on them, that's incredibly short-sighted, because what if they give it to somebody else who's in the riskier category? But, at this point, some people have had enough, right? And they're ready. And as you see that play across the whole landscape of America, some people are ready, to get things back to normal. And for some, and a lot of those, not even some, a lot of those viewpoints, I do understand. Like, you got business owners who are struggling. Struggling.
In trouble.
Trying to stay afloat, and a lot of businesses are already closed because of this. You got people who are just dying. Dying just to get back to work so they can make a paycheck. And here's, because there's, popular, contrary to popular belief that some people hold, people don't want to be on unemployment. Most people do not want to be on. Most people want to make their own money. Most people want to provide a living for themselves and for their families. And this, depending on what industry you're in, this whole pandemic could have totally crushed you, closed you down, made you
There's
pack
absolutely
on deck.
restaurants here in the local area who some of them have shuttered for good. Especially if you're already on the ropes, this is the end of it. And this post-COVID world, one thing we have to consider is, will there be a second wave, yes or no? And then what does that look like? Because we've spent so much time quarantining, socially distancing, and what if it's all for naught because there's a second wave because people just decided this is over with too soon, and here we are, we're going to come and return to normal as we see fit. And then the next interesting question is, for those states, you see this going back and forth up in Michigan. It's going to the Michigan Supreme Court. I've seen, 21st, we're just going to go back to normal. There's nothing government can do about it. These restrictions, what power does the government have and what force are they willing to use to enforce it? Because all laws, at the end of the day, no matter how big or small, when it comes down to it, are going to be enforced at gunpoint by an officer, yes or no? Like that's the magic question, right? Like, are you getting dragged screaming off the bus, for like that unfortunate video of the man in Philadelphia, if you don't have a mask? We've seen people and they're being made fun of, but for who are recording how they're being rejected from different stores. I won't wear a mask. I won't do that. And it really begs the question. The private businesses, of course, have the ability, and I support that, of requiring the mask, what have you. But public, just walking down the street, can you arrest people for not wearing a mask? Can you arrest people for violating social distancing? What methods will we use to enforce social distancing?
And you can get arrested for that. You can get arrested for violating.
Especially depending on the state.
Yeah, and whether the state wants to do it, look, I think it's incredibly, inefficient, a waste of money to arrest somebody just to throw them in jail just because they weren't wearing necessarily a mask, right?
Only to then put them in jail, and then we're releasing people from jail early because of COVID-19.
I don't think that's the way to go. But I also think, that things do have to get open and back to normal. I think that it needs to be a tiered approach. I think that any business, and you will hope that if I'm a consumer of your business, when I walk in that place of business, I want to see everybody working there with a mask on.
Oh, yeah.
I really do, and I prefer latex gloves. You change them on the hour, every hour, right?
Yeah, change those gloves. There's nothing worse than these people who are like wearing gloves and just like going about regular life.
Yeah,
they're still touching their face and scratching their hair.
Exactly, they got the same gloves on. They had it on for 8 hours, going every which way. No, I prefer to see that. And if you tell me that I can't come in here unless I wear a mask, I will respect that. If I don't have a mask on me
too.
I need to go buy one, or I need to go home and get mine. Whatever the case may be. But I understand that given the circumstances. I don't think what they're asking is unreasonable, right? So I think we have to allow things to start opening back up because guess what? We can't handle, more and more people becoming unemployed. The social safety net is not in place to carry that kind of burden.
And we can't keep printing money.
And you cannot
keep trillions and trillions of dollar level from here to beyond. Because my goodness, we do not. As bad as COVID-19 has been on the economy, we do not want to engage in hyperinflation. We do not want to engage in what Greece and some of these other countries
have gone through. $1,000 for a loaf of bread.
My gosh, man.
$500 for some crackers.
It can get worse. It can get a lot worse. We keep printing money. And then what does that look like for the world if the U.S. dollar, which so much of the world and world economy depends, collapses? We don't want to see that.
Yeah, the U.S. dollar is what is the gold standard for currency in the world. That's what OPEC trades in, is the U.S. dollar. That's why every country in the world has to have United States dollars in their personal reserves because we are the gold standard as far as currency on the world on a nation level. So if we fall, it's a domino effect, right? It's not we're tied into our neighbors at this point when it comes to our economy, right? So it can't continue to go the way it is. And I also understand we have a social and ethical responsibility to keep those who are at high risk safe. I'd be fine if they did something like this, saying, "Hey, if you don't meet a certain criteria of you being over a certain age or having underlying health conditions, it's take your necessary safety precautions. It's time to get back to work, right? If you want to go, right? But if you're in this other class of people, we'll help you out. How you kind of hold over the storm until either A, we have better treatment for it, or B, we have a vaccine, or have some other mechanisms in place to kind of keep you safe." People. That's a lot of people, but guess what?
And that's just the people who are in those, people who at home have somebody who's at risk. My mother-in-law, she's 73 years old. She's not here at the moment, but man, like if you are an essential worker going, dealing with the public, you got to come back to the house with somebody who's extremely at risk. That's
there's people that do that already. And, people are smart. They got to figure out whether you got to quarantine yourself in your own house. Hey, say in this section of the house, I can't go because I know that's where Meemaw stays. Hey, that's what you got to do for right now. These are unprecedented times, where things are not going to be normal for a while for some folks.
For a while.
And they just have to essentially just get into that. And we have to figure out what we're going to do and how we're going to reopen the economy. How we're going to reopen, just kids going back to school. Here's another thing. You got all these people. You have all these people that have these kids, and these kids have to go to school, right? But now they're being homeschooled. Well, guess what? Not every family unit is privileged enough to have both parents in the house. And even if you do have both parents in the house, not every family unit has the luxury of both parents taking off, or one of both parents taking off of work to watch over the kids while they're at school learning virtually. I mean, they have to go to school in order for that family to meet its financial obligations.
They have to go to school to use it for the daycare purposes.
Some people got to do it just to eat.
Mm-hmm. Can you fathom? They're opening up jobs and come on back to work, but school isn't open when it's supposed to be running through early June. And we got to figure out what you're going to do with the kids at home. And oh, by the way, daycares aren't open either. That's a rough one, man.
Yeah, I mean, I really feel for parents with small kids because they are locked up in their house. They are isolated with these little demons running around, causing havoc, and there's no place. They can't even say, let me go to Chuck E. Cheese and watch them bounce around the ball pit. So many things are off limits for them. They can't even let them go play around the playground. Those are closed. Right? There's so many things off, and I feel really bad for them, and I feel especially bad for the ones who can't work from home, who have to take off, and now you put them through the ultimate choice of my livelihood, my career, or just putting food on the table, paying the rent, versus
taking watching over my kids. Have to let their job go because they've created a logistical impossibility of COVID-19.
And these are just hard circumstances that a lot of people are facing. And it's rough to see that so many people are struggling in so many different ways in different areas. You have all these senior living facilities that are having just rampant outbreaks. And here's the thing: some of these outbreaks are going underreported or not reported at all. And some of these are facilities are letting people going back and forth between the wards that have patients with COVID-19 and letting the same employees walks back and forth between the two, continue to spread it. There's no real sense of regulation over it. So it's so many different facets of life that have been impacted. And if you have a parent or a grandparent or uncle or aunt that's living in this thing, you can't even go visit them. If they if they're on their deathbed, you can't go see them, right?
There are people who are having to bury their loved ones with, 15 people or less, or maybe even have nothing but a FaceTime video.
That's what happened with my my wife's grandmother. She passed away in the midst of this pandemic, and they had to we did a Zoom call, right, and had all the family on there, and it was just a few of the direct family there that could go. There was no actual in the funeral home or a church or anything. They went straight to the cemetery. They had to wear gloves and masks, said a few words, and had to lower body. And everybody else had to watch on Zoom. And people have to go through this. Right? It's really, really tough. It's really tough. Just Losing someone in general is tough on its own, but losing them and you can't even say goodbye and do the things that you wanted to do for them, adds a whole nother level to it. And it's just some of the things that are going on. And now it's like, all right, how do we get back to normal? What does that look like? Is there a new normal? Like, will things ever get back? Will ever get to the point where people are comfortable going to concerts again, or sporting events, going to a lounge or a club?
Shoot, how do you they're right now working on sorts of ideas and contingencies. The NFL has the benefit of having a few months before the traditional start of their season. But man, the NBA season, like having to shut it down right there, as they were coming down their home stretch. Where do they go from here? Do they need warm up games? Do they go straight to the playoffs? I've seen have a 30-team tournament and just have at it.
That's close to what hockey was doing. I think 2/3 of the league is in their proposal is going to the playoffs.
Whole time, because you imagine, like, they could almost do it in 2 sets, just a bottom half of league playoffs, and then let them be the 16th team, the winner of that, to join the top of the half of the league playoffs, and just go from there. Like, that is, there's a number of ways to slice that, but I would like to see, the season return and not just have this completely ended. I feel absolutely bad for those veterans. Vince Carter had to go ahead and hang it all the way up. Those unlikely Atlanta would have been advancing to the playoffs. Makes you think about, that this is first world problems, of course, but thinking about, man, imagine being LeBron James. You're, cooking in year 17 and leading the West, and you're trying to make your, fight for another title. It's like, we're just going to go ahead and remove this whole year from the history books.
I mean, sports is an important aspect, and not just to the American fabric and way of life, but internationally, it might not be the same sports, but soccer is really big overseas. Certain sports is a good distraction for people, or a healthy distraction for them, just for a point to say, hey, let's all sit down and watch our favorite team play. Or did you see, when such and such won last night, I feel good about my Monday now because, my team won. It's a healthy distraction, and that's, part of the allure of sports is it's a getaway. And I do think that, they should find a way. I think there can be ways for them to resume play in a smart manner. But I also think that, we're going to have to get used to the fact that COVID-19 is not going away anytime soon. All predictions, and mind you, the predictions have been wrong a lot of the time so far, have suggested that it will be a reemergence come the fall time. Mm-hmm. And I think everybody has heard that, and we have to wrap our mind around it, that this thing is not going to go away anytime soon. So will we start to treat COVID-19 like the common cold or like the flu? Would you somebody? I mean, it used to be where somebody, they come and work, they had to cough and the sniffles. They just tough through it, and people wouldn't think twice about it.
Wouldn't think
now,
twice. Those days are done.
Yeah, now somebody comes with a cough and sniffles. They're going to throw a hazmat unit over them and have them escorted off the premises. Right?
It really brings into question those sick leave policies as well.
Yeah, and not everybody has sick leave. Let's get into that. If we could get into that, I mean, it's a lot of things that have to be, rethought about how we go about our day-to-day lives, things we do, things we should expect, right, going forward. And I think these conversations, and unfortunately, the current administration has been abysmal at communication. I think Dr. Fauci, and I'm forgetting the other doctor and her name, I forgot her name. But anyway, they have been pretty good on a micro level of just the two of them communicating themselves out. And, even when they have updates and their predictions or models are wrong, they're very fast and very knowledgeable. And you get a sense of, at least I understand that they're having a good grasp of what's going on. They do not know all the facts and details. The models are constantly changing, but they're on top of it. Versus at the top level of government, you don't get that sense. And I think that's where a lot of the panic is coming from, or maybe not panic, unease, is you don't have a central strategy. You have these guidelines that some states are following and some states aren't, that are put down from a federal level down to the states. And, it's almost at this point like the Wild Wild West. Me and Troy are both from Maryland. the county we live in, Prince George's, they're still locked down. Here in Texas, hey man, they're talking about how they can get these bars open soon, right? You know, it's everything. Other restaurants are back open, sending people and all these other things. So you're wondering, and you got certain places saying, "I'm gonna sit there and wait and see what happens to them," right? You know, let them be the guinea pigs.
I'm not part of the first wave rolling on out there. You know, even though I too am dying, especially with the time on the hands wanting to get out. And one thing, we are in the United States, but as we have these mixed responses, we're shut down in here, we're wide open there. At some point, travel and tourism will begin to resume. What risk will we run of spreading hotspots to here? Like, are we going to be, at the airports and setting up at the borders of each road, like, hey, where you coming from? We're here to take your temperature. And by the way, stick your tongue out and say, that's a rough sell.
Yeah, I mean, right now at my job, every time you roll up to the gate, there's a nurse there to take your temperature and ask you a series of questions.
Wow.
And you have to wear a mask. Everybody in the building has to wear a mask. It's social distancing. Only one person can ride the elevator at a time. They're taking it serious. And it's one of those things where it's just there's no national cohesive strategy. And that's what really concerns me.
Not even at a state level, like
not even at a state level
for your job than they are for mine.
Yeah, even at least at the state,
all they did was reduce staffing.
Yeah,
that's about it. So
at state levels, some of them deferring down to the county level. I mean, there has to be some kind of cohesive strategy put into place with rubrics and guidelines to say, hey, in order to do this, we need to at least be able to check off these boxes to have a reasonable degree of certainty, as much as you can be certain in these times, of what the results of certain actions will be. Are we going to open up barbershops and nail salons? All right, if you want to do that, I want to see 5 days of a downward trend. I don't think that's unreasonable, but some states are like, the hell with that, including the state I live in, right? So it's no real cohesive strategy. I think that's also a sign of weak leadership at the highest level. But not to go on the politics side of it, but it's just, I think there needs to be some way for there to be a roadmap to get better that most of the country can kind of follow and, kind of step to that beat. How are we going to get schools back open? What does that look like? I've already heard that the city I live in talking about they might go to an A day and a B day, where some kids come on an A day and some kids come on a B day. They're throwing that out there.
One thing that's amazing to me is the time and how we've just changed this, because I think there are some silver lining in this unfortunate storm, or that we've embraced teleworking, on a massive scale. We've gone from, we need you to come into work, 40 hours a week, maybe even more, to, just stay at home, because all you do is send emails anyways for 8 hours a day. I hope that stays in place for forever. Some jobs obviously my job, I need to be there, I need to be on site, but for the jobs where it's mostly all you do is work at your computer, work at your terminal, work at your desk, and you send emails and respond back and forth, I hope some of that teleworking remains that way. I hope traffic stays light for those of us who have to still drive on in. And that even has its own benefits from an environmental standpoint. Less cars on the road, maintenance and what have you, less congestion. Would love to see telework stay there for the foreseeable future.
Telework should, the landscape of telework should change after this. People who have general desk jobs that just interface with a computer and don't need to be in the office on a day-to-day basis should be teleworking. Like you already said, there's clear environmental benefits to it. There's cost implications, as in I don't have to pay for gas. I don't have to have as many nice work clothes.
There's a cost benefit for the employer. You don't have to maintain these massive offices and cubicles and space. I know, depending on what position you have, it's a union requirement to have a certain size cubicle. It's got to be at least 8x8 and what have you. Man, you can, to trim all that, I guarantee you people would love to work from home.
There has already been,
take my keys from me. Don't even want them.
There's already been studies that have polled people working from home, and the majority of people asked said they would take a reduce in pay to keep working from home.
Yep.
I think that says a lot. There's some jobs like me and Troy, we both have to go in. But if I had the ability to work from home, I would never want to go in the office. I mean, worst case scenario, you might have a meeting that you had to come in once a week or every other week or something like that, or once a month or something like that. If you really need to see my ugly face, in person, you could do that, right? But outside of that, most things in this modern day environment, if you have a desk job, can be done remotely. You do not need to be there.
I think you're going to find increases in production. People will be more well rested. People are going to be more eager to work, more eager to knock it out. Productivity will remain the same, if not improve.
Yeah, and then also you probably want to have the people want to have to use as much leave because
now if I have the sniffles, I can still walk to my in-house office and still do the same work. I don't have to worry about driving in or catching the metro, the train, the subway, the bus, or sitting in traffic for however long I have to go.
Exactly.
I
mean, or I have an appointment in the middle of the day. It's easy for me now. It's easy. I can just go out and come back to my house, and I keep on working. I can make my work day work for me. Of course, you're gonna have your core hours where you want somebody to be there, but outside of that, if they want to put in work or make up for extra time, it's easier for them to do it. They got their own dedicated home office set up.
And if you need to see people, we have access to Zoom, Skype, FaceTime. I saw an amusing meme that said Skype blew a 17-year lead. I don't know where Zoom came from, personally.
I honestly do not.
It just came out of left field.
Apparently, it's been around for a while because I talked to some people who said they've been using Zoom before this whole thing happened. I thought it was a recent invention. It was not.
Man. Like, I thought Skype was the video to be, and they just, that got cleaned out. Stock of Zoom is exploding. I think the stock of a company labeled and listed similar in name to Zoom also went up because people thought it was the wrong one.
That's an actual thing that people companies with a ticker symbol.
Will just intentionally try to be adjacent.
Or something like that, like turns the ticker symbol money or like that, something cool, tend to actually trade for higher for longer, versus what their actual company worth is, right? So I mean, there's actual science behind that, but it's interesting that now that we live in this day and age that we have so much technology available where we do not have to do things the archaic way we have been doing them. I mean, I think we can take this as a win for most people and say, hey, let's keep working from home. I mean, there's no reason to really come in the office.
We're even seeing the push in education. We're going to, they're already talking about colleges are setting up virtual campuses and things of that nature. That's called online learning.
Yeah, and if they do that, they need to drop them tuition.
That tuition. Oh my gosh. And if they aren't dropping that tuition, get those credits from any place else that's compatible with where you're trying to get your degree. Because, man, I can just see them now. Oh, yeah, we're going to get these virtual campuses going, what have you, and the tuition's still going to remain the same. But trust me, you're going to get that top-notch state education.
You know what? For me, coming out, my first job, me and Troy both we went to Hampton University, HBCU, and I remember on my first job, I met some people, and they was like, I went to Harvard, and I was like, I went to Princeton, and I went to NYU, and all these really nice, fancy colleges, and they asked me where I went. I said I went to Hampton. They said, "Where is that? In the Hamptons?" And I was like, "No, it's from
That's
Virginia."
amusing to me, and I've had that too. Like, I've even had people say, "Oh wow, the Hamptons! Oh man!" I'm like, no.
Hampton, Virginia. The 757, the Tidewater area. That's what I'm talking about. And it's like, oh, okay, and and I could see that immediately they would look down. But I was like in my head, I was like, for me, I'm an engineer, so I was like, a formula is a formula. Whether you learn it at MIT or you learn it at Hampton, it equates the same, right? So for me to make my point to run circles around them, and in my first year, make sure I rated out higher than them. But all that to say that you can doesn't matter where you're coming from. They want to keep having these high tuition rates for the same service as you would get.
At some point, they're going to have to drop it.
I mean,
at some point,
online.
Virtual online learning.
Yeah,
you're going to charge the same prices. If that doesn't explode the scam, I don't know what will.
Yeah, because we already got enough student loan debt as it is. You got people going in, not getting their, the bang for their buck, and let's go do a whole pod on the sham that some colleges are pulling, pulling people in, having them rack up to their ears in debt that they can never pay off. I remember I was looking at. I heard this one guy was $1 million in student loan debt.
What is he?
He's a doctor.
Is he a 12-time doctor?
He's a
12-time
doctor.
PhD.
He's a regular, a doctor, a medical doctor, but $1 million in student loan. At the rate he was going, he could never pay it off because he couldn't keep up with the interest.
That's another interesting thing. We borrow money, man. Not to go on a tangent there. Borrowing money, APR, and that compounded interest. Oh my gosh! Like if I borrow $100,000 from you, why can't we just agree that I give you $130 back? Yeah. Like how does that turn out to be $347,000 on this $100? Like man.
It's a shame. It's correct. Matter of fact, if you did that to some guy on the street,
the more money I have, you'll give me a lower rate, and therefore not completely bend me at a 90-degree angle.
Yeah, it's like I said, if this was some guy named Jambino down the street that was doing this for you, he'll get arrested on a loan sharking, right? But since it's Bank of America, it's A-okay. Not to divert too off from our original topic of COVID, but you got the way we go about life, things have got to change. Things have to evolve. I think people are good at adapting to changing circumstances.
Let's hope it change for the better. That we use this not to go back the new normal, not to go back to the way they were. But we need more telework. It solves a lot of problems. The impact on education. We should be incorporating that technology at the collegiate level. Stop dragging us in there and charging us the same price for those credits for that University 101 class that every school in America drags their kids in there to, for 3 credits. It has to change.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see how things unfold. I'm really looking forward to see what the landscape of things will be like in the fall. How much things rebound in the summertime versus, I'm even thinking just travel, right? Like I have to go back home to Maryland to handle some business, and I've been meaning to go back home. But I'm like, do I really want to get on a plane at this point? Is it worth it? If I do that, we'll have to come back in 14 days of quarantine. Those are one of the states you got to. Yada, yada, yada. At one point, will those tensions and those fears ease in the back of people's heads? Allow them to move around more freely. You think so?
It's going to be a while. And I think one of the symbols of it is the return of sports. People will calm down as soon as you're able to stuff a stadium or an arena full of people and, we don't have explosive outbreaks. But we're going to need that symbology. I think we, as a nation, we thrive on the symbology of that. And I think that's why some people are trying to desperately get back to football in the fall, or whether it's the return of the NBA, even if we ease our way to it, baseball, what have you. Whichever is the first sports league that can get that product back up and running and get people back into the stands and find a way, because every arena is built to cram people in as close as possible, right? Even the airline industry, they're able to put more people in the planes. The planes are bigger and they can fly the same. And you know what they did? They just simply made the seats smaller and stuffed more people in there. So it's going to be an interesting thing. As soon as we get that back, even if it's baby steps moving towards, that's when people will start to see. Because honestly, that was when it first got me. Looking at it, hearing it, seeing that in March that this was coming. But when it really got real, when they hung the NBA up, when they're willing to lay those billions and billions of dollars aside, when the NCAA tournament, $1 billion event that at this point it's gone for good.
Yeah,
sports when they hung up when the billionaires were like, yeah, we're gonna just not take this money right now.
I think it got real for most people when Rudy Gobert.
Oh yeah.
Went around
patient zero for the NBA.
Yeah, touching all the mics and joking around, and actually had it, and actually passed it. Well, can't say 100% certain he passed along, but implied that he passed along to teammates,
to his teammates, to the people they played against.
Yeah,
patient zero for the NBA.
Right, and I think when people realized it was like,
and that's when the NBA pulled the plug. Like it was all, he just got person wasn't taking it serious. And we're going to pull these. They came out. I think it was the Jazz and the Thunder. They were in Oklahoma City, and they literally, some official, whether for the league or the team, ran out on the court and stopped this game before it tip off. And they cleared the court, cleared the arena, and that was the end of the NBA season. So, or at least a pause of it in recent memory. and knowing that they actually kept the Jazz players like sequestered in the locker room, as they had to find a way to get some tests, and I think they had to charter buses back to Salt Lake City. I mean, it was just wild, man.
Yeah, and I think that's when people start realizing, oh crap. And here's the thing: talking to some people in the medical field that me and my wife have talked to, they said that they've seen symptoms that mirror this all the way back to last year, in the last fall, beginning of last winter, last year. So I firmly believe that this thing has been around for longer than what we know it was. They just didn't know what to call it.
But the problem is the symptoms were too similar to so many other things.
Yeah, but no, they said it mirrored it exactly. It's like they just didn't know. They knew there was something. They knew it was some kind of virus. They just didn't know what it was. Some weird strain of the flu. Something they just didn't know what it was. Had nothing to call it at this point. And then when it came out that this was the coronavirus, it was like, oh, that's what that was, right? So it's been around, and you see that these states like California, I think it was San Diego, saying that they're tracing, in LA, tracing stuff back, saying it's been here a lot longer than we thought, right?
Yeah.
And it really has, right? It's one of those things that it's like, you can't.
Essentially, it didn't explode until March. We know that as far back as November, China was having these signs and these early things, and we know China is not fast or forthcoming. Yeah. They could have absolutely had that sooner. While people are traveling back and forth to China, lots of people travel back and forth both from this area in northern Texas and obviously in California over to mainland China and back.
And New York,
that thing, and New York, being international cities, international areas with large populations. That's so you're absolutely right. It could have been coming in around a lot sooner, spreading before anyone knew what this was or knew to be worried or knew what to even look for. It's hard to fight an enemy that you don't even know is there.
Yeah, and now that they know that it's there, they're scrambling to find different treatments. You hear when the president is touting about to butcher the pronunciation, hydroxychloroquine, whatever.
Oh yeah, that hydroxychloroquine.
Chloroquine something. You know what I'm talking about.
What Trump is out there pushing.
They actually had a study that came back and said that thing had no positive results. The last article I read said that on large that had no positive effects on the treatment of COVID-19. Right?
Hydroxychloroquine.
So,
my Christmas.
So you're now seeing that. Here's the thing: people don't. They have these rapid tests. I actually got one. I got the rapid test. The pharmacist I went to, he ran out of it. I think I told you about it, Troy. And it came up negative, and I felt pretty confident. It's like, oh, it came up negative. And I was kind of a little blown. I was like, came up negative, but I kind of wish I had it. And it was an antibody test. So I kind of wish I had it and didn't have it, because then maybe I'd be immune. And they were saying that for a while. Then they say, well, hold up, maybe you won't be immune. Mm-hmm. We don't know yet. And now they're coming around.
If you're not immune after catching this, oh my Christmas, it's going to be a lot worse getting back to quote unquote normal.
Yeah, and now they're saying that a lot of those tests are faulty and giving back false readings, so you don't know exactly whether or not they are actually accurate.
Even the original test, the biggest and the best that they were administering, they had to take that sucker 3 times, because of because it can easily. There are people who were tested once, negative, tested twice, negative, tested the 3rd time. Yep, that one's positive. What happened to those first 2 tests? It's always been a work in progress because of how fast the medical community had to respond to this.
And this is the FDA principle said, they opened the floodgates. It says the Wild Wild West. Whoever wants to make a test, go ahead. We're not stopping you, right? Mm-hmm. And there's nothing to stop that company from saying, hey, we got a valid test, and shipping it off to people and selling to people and not having any government scrutiny on it. And I know you don't want government to stifle innovation at a time like this, but at the same time, you could give a lot of people a false sense of security, thinking that, hey, I don't have it because I bought this test online at, coronavirustest.net.
Well, that leads to people having that false confidence to come right back out here with no mask, no gloves, no nothing in public.
So it's a lot that goes into this, and then just the vaccinations for it, saying if they can come up with one, right? So some of the I believe, and forgive me if I'm wrong, but the bonding, how coronavirus bonds to your cells is similar to how HIV works. And guess what? They're both viruses. HIV is a virus. Coronavirus obviously is a virus. COVID-19 is a virus. So if they can't, there is no vaccine you can take for HIV. Mm-hmm. they're saying for that, there might not be one you can take for coronavirus.
Either ever or anytime soon.
You got to think about all the other diseases they have out here.
And we had to pause on. Starts looking for coronavirus.
Yeah, but I'm saying all the other diseases they've had out here that they still do not have vaccines for, and it's not for a lack of trying. Some viruses are not easily have vaccines made readily available for them because of the nature of the virus. And people have to get into this might be a new thing, and maybe this particular thing, and what a lot of people are hoping on, is herd immunity, where enough people get it, they build up antibodies, that eventually the virus finds no place to go, and it kind of dies out without mutating too bad, and changing to a new strain where your antibodies don't work. A lot of people are hoping for that, and certain countries just went straight for the herd immunity route and said we're not doing any social distancing, things like that. So we have to see, and only time will tell. And here's the thing: no one knows for sure. No one has a crystal ball. All the models have been constantly incorrect up to this point.
And that's going to be really any modeling. Heck, you do a model of the weather. We're going to get numerous options. Model of a hurricane path. You're going to get numerous options and paths. That is the nature of people doing their best using the finest science available. They're not going to be perfectly accurate. And the question is, how much caution will we use? Because at some point, all these the millionaires and billionaires are ready to start making money again. And that's essentially where we've got hey, it's time to start making money again. And even for the small business owner, it's time to start having a chance to fight for their thing. I feel bad for some of these restaurants though, man. I stopped past. I was going to pick up to go from a Cheddar's down the street, and we walk in there to place an order. And they do have, sit-down dining available. People are walking out left and right. And I'm like, what's going on? Oh, yeah, they're open, but they have a limited menu. They got no cooks, but the managers are back there cooking. I'm like, hey, man, just close the doors. You can't open. You got no cooks. Your menu's limited. People are literally opening up your menu. Half the good stuff, even the stuff we left, the stuff that we came there to buy, they don't have. Some of these, swinging the doors back open, even if they say, hey, guys, it's all, just come on out tomorrow. Because some people are not going to ride that first wave out in public. And two, some of these businesses, it's going to take some time to get people back to normal. Restaurants are not designed to operate at 25% capacity and turn a profit. They're not designed to operate, at those such low numbers spaced out. Yeah, we'll put 6 feet between tables. That means you're removing tables.
Some restaurants can't survive the bar being down.
Yeah. People not serving drinks, things of that nature. By the way, it's amazing to me how we went from, we can give you this drink. You can't take it outside. To, hey, we'll give you a gallon of Marg on the go. Matter of fact, we'll deliver it to you. Matter of fact, we'll throw it at the car window into your lawn. We won't even touchless and contactless delivery. We innovated fast. I hope that a lot of that stuff stays the same. It's going to be quite a hard sell to go back to, you can't carry that drink out anymore. When it's been allowed pretty much everywhere here in this post-COVID world.
Yeah, it's going to be, like I said, it's going to be interesting to watch how these businesses, I think, all these structures are going to end up changing the way a lot of business is done. The businesses that do survive, they're going to be the ones who are early adapters of different ways or innovations of different ways for them to go about doing business, attracting customers, and, pushing their product to an extent. It's one of those things that's just going to be rough for actually I predict it to be rough for a couple of years afterwards. It's going to take time for people to who are out of work to find a job again. Not everybody can just snap their fingers and boom, I can get another job, I can get employed. It's going to take
opening
time.
Up these restaurants at a limited capacity, going to have a limited staff, going to have a limited amount of cooks, limited amount of front of house, back of house, and things of that nature.
Yeah, so it's gonna be a long road to recovery, and it's different for every people. I've been blessed, and Troy's been blessed that we haven't had to be laid off, right? But I've known people that have been laid off or have to have work reduced schedules. Some people can work a reduced schedule and still maintain their income. Some people have to work a reduced schedule. Heck, even at my company, certain divisions at my company had to take a pay cut, right? And luckily, my division wasn't one of them because we continued to work. But I feel for people like that. Some people cannot take a pay cut half of America lives paycheck to paycheck, right? So
Probably more than half.
yeah, so it's hard. It's hard out there.
And it's one thing. It's hard to lose your job at any given time and era, but to lose your job now, knowing that businesses and the economy as a whole is shrinking and there is no place to go. That if you work in restaurants, you can get a job at that restaurant. No, they're hurting too. Everybody's got to cut staff. If I do you one better, what are we going to do with school if everybody's virtually working and no one's coming to campus? Whether it's the teachers themselves, but the faculty, but whether it's the building, from all the way down to the janitors, it's going to be job losses. Either you're going to pay somebody to do no work whatsoever, or you're going to have massive job losses.
It's going to be hard. And I think one of the things we're going to have to do, we're going to have to hope for meaningful legislation. Sorry that a stimulus check for was it
$1,200.
$1,200.
If you qualified.
Yeah, if you qualified.
I always love the qualified ones because, like, what if hey, individual making six figures, you don't qualify, but what if I lost my job too? On my taxes, that's still filed.
Yeah,
like
the
that's
last year.
Unfortunate, we're in a situation, but like, man, that's you don't qualify, or if you're married and you do, and then the kids and what have you. It's about time. I remember them saying, hey, if it lasts this long, we'll be doing this again, and it's about that time.
Yeah, so they're already talking about another $2 trillion or whatever the number
Man,
was.
these trillions are coming out of nowhere.
Well, that's the topic for another day. How the Federal Reserve prints money out of thin air.
Printing money is what's happening right now.
But it's all this. How is this going to get these families, and how this job market and things are going to look? How long is it going to take? This is going to be, I tell people it's going to be, years before things get completely back to normal to you. Remember, it's like, till you can tell somebody, hey, you remember back when that COVID-19 stuff happened? It's going to be a while because people are going to still be living throughout the ramifications of it. So while this is going on, if you know somebody that's struggling with this, just lend a hand if you can, man. It's at this point is looking out for your neighbor, looking out for your family, doing what you can to help other people out, because at the end of the day, that's where a lot of people are going to find their support structure is with people they know. The $1,300 check from Uncle Sam ain't going to cut it, right? Mm-hmm. It might need hey, I got some extra food in the crib down the here y'all go. Little things like that, little things you can do for other people. That can help out. And for people who are isolated, that can't really go nowhere, your elderly people I don't like this. Hey, just something, they might be financially straight, but pick up a phone, give them a call, people's mental health.
Especially those people, who are living alone.
Yeah, I mean,
especially if they're older.
Yeah, that's something to really think. You live alone, you're stuck in the house, you can't go nowhere, and all, you turn the news, it's nothing but fear and death reports and things like that. You probably have heard of people, friends that have passed away because of it. I mean, it's a very tough situation to be mentally and emotionally. So, reach out to those people, just check in, chime in, see how they're doing, if you're in a position to do such. So that's pretty much, kind of where we think, where we're at, where we think things are, state of affairs as far as COVID-19. We think it's going to be a long, rough road ahead, in some aspects, but there are also going to be places for innovation, like we said, working from home, doing things, maybe transforming and getting sports back on track. Different ways that people can go about this to mitigate, some of the aspects of COVID-19, but also innovate and, use that kind of good old, human spirit to get things back to where we're going. Also, at this point, I'd like to say, I'm done rapping, and I want to wrap this up.
If you've made it with us this far, we'd like to thank you guys for listening to our first podcast. We'll continue to get better, and we hope you all continue to enjoy. We appreciate you guys for allowing us to keep your attention span this long, and this is the beginning of our long journey.
Yeah, and if you guys have comments, feedback, I hate this, I love this, I like it when you do this, you guys suck. Whatever it is, let us know, right? I mean, we want to hear it.
Give us that brutal truth. And also, if you guys have ideas or topics or things you'd like to describe, leave those in the comments.
Yeah, just let us know. I mean, we're here. We're trying to give you our thoughts, our perspective on things. We're two average guys. I wouldn't say average. I'd say we're two, borderline intellectual people. We got good jobs. We've been very blessed. You know, with just insight and things, and you know, just general blessings that have helped us so far in our career, and we just kind of want to spread the inside things we think we're going on. Hope you find it entertaining. So that's about it.
I'm Troy.
I'm Mike.
Peace and love.